Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Today, as you guys can see up on the screen, I wanted to talk about Mikyx a little bit, I wanted to talk about G2 a little bit, and I wanted to go over this new article that came out recently. It was an interview with Mr. Mikyx himself, and he was talking a little bit of trash. He was throwing some shade at the LCK. He was throwing some shade at some Korean players, and now it's obviously kind of an interesting time for that. G2 has seen better days. They, in 2019, were a better, scarier team. In 2020, they were still a better and scarier team than they are now, and maybe you would expect some more trash talk from them then, but right now to be sitting in the middle of the pack in the LEC, I think they're in 5th place right now, and they're still talking trash, they're still throwing shade at the LCK, at Korean teams, at Korean players. That's really interesting, that's really funny, and it does kind of show me that that old G2, that same G2 trash talk, swagger, confidence, borderline arrogance might be coming back a little bit, and I'm here for it. That would be pretty fun. That'd be pretty exciting. But definitely drop a like if you guys do enjoy this video. I would appreciate it so much. Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content, and consider checking out my Patreon, patreon.com/IamGerm, if you guys want to go a little bit extra supporting me, my content, and my channel. With that being said, let's get right into this. So this came up on Reddit. It got really popular when I'm recording this. It's currently the #1 thing on the League of Legends subreddit, which means a lot of people are seeing it, a lot of people are talking about it, and if it's trash talk, it must be pretty spicy. This article comes from Invin Global. John Popko, I'm not really familiar with him. I don't really know of his work at all. Hopefully he's a good writer, interviewer, whatever. Invin, they're usually pretty decent. Mikyx does say, and the big quote, the headline here is that I feel LCK bot lanes are worse than LEC and LPL ones. I was not very impressed by anyone there, and that's a big spicy line. That's some good solid trash talk, and that's honestly something that is going to get people going. It's going to get some discussion started, because so many League of Legends fans that have been League of Legends fans for the past couple of years come from that era where Koreans were the most dominant. They were the best at everything. They were the best bot lanes, they were the best mid lanes, they were the best teams, they were the perennial world champs, and you know, some people just can't really get over that hump. Some people can't really get over that hurdle of now realizing that the LCK is not the best region anymore. Yes, Damwon are the defending champions, but they're not the defending MSI champions. And just because the LCK had the best team in the world last year, that does not mean they're the best league. That does not mean they have the best players anymore. I really think China has overcome them, and I think in a way the LEC is at least equal to them, if not over them a little bit as well. And things are going to be really interesting at Worlds this year once we actually get to see 4 Korean teams, 4 Chinese teams, 3 European teams. Everybody gets to clash, and we're really going to find out who the best and who the second best region is as well. But I do think it was interesting that we got some of this trash talk from Mikyx, so let's dive into this interview. So one of the questions was, you and Rekkles look like a more cohesive bot lane recently. They stated that there was an area of focus at the beginning of the split, that you were going to talk with him about adjusting your playstyles to fit with one another. That's a really big thing. I know there's been a ton of people talking about how it seems like Rekkles doesn't really fit in with G2 a lot, and maybe even though he's a great player, maybe that's kind of why G2 has been struggling or not looked as good. I think that is a very surface level analysis. I think there's a lot more going on with G2, but that certainly could be part of it. With that said, what are the specific adjustments you guys have made? So obviously they've been playing a little bit better recently. What does Mikyx think? He thinks it's been more communication. He talks about talking before the lane starts, what the expectation is going into the lane. They talk about waves. They talk about you know, wanting to get effective recalls, when they can roam, stuff like that. This stuff honestly seems pretty low level. It doesn't seem like anything too crazy here. Mikyx says that they didn't do these things before. They didn't really do that beforehand. I don't know if they just assumed each other knew, or I don't know if they just had bad communication, if they were uncomfortable with each other or what. But coming into the season, a lot of people were acting like they were going to have great synergy. They were going to have great communication. They were going to have a great relationship. But for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like that happened in spring. Thankfully, it is happening now, but hopefully it's not too little too late as far as developing the synergies together and really being able to understand each other as a bot lane. Again, Mikyx is having a much better summer split than spring. Rekkles is still doing pretty solid, so hopefully they have made some progress in that regards, but kind of some weird quotes coming there from Mikyx. The next question is, with your guys' recent success in finally making playoffs, World seems to be on the horizon. I don't know about all that. We'll see. G2, again, they're likely to make Worlds, but there is a real possibility that they do not make Worlds. There's only 3 seeds from the LEC this year. G2's in 4th or 5th right now. They're not a lock to make Worlds at all. We'll have to wait and see. There's definitely some teams that couldn't compete with them for that spot. I mean, just think that at least one of G2, Fnatic, Mad Lions, and Rogue are not going to Worlds. It could very easily be G2, especially with how things have been going the whole 2021 season. World definitely seems to be on the horizon. He wants your perspective, since he would say Rekkles isn't the best in Europe at laning, but he's the best out of lane phase. When you see how aggressive bot lanes in the LPL are and how they carry that to mid to late game, is that something you think G2 are equipped for? And how do you plan on dealing with that? I think that is a pretty good question. He thinks it's going to be kind of similarly to when they go to Worlds and international events in the past. He didn't really feel like there was much of a difference between European or Chinese bot lanes. When he watches LPL or LCK, bot lanes get leads where they shouldn't, and they think sometimes they play against people that are misplaying a lot of stuff. He does think that LPL teams play a lot more aggressive, when in Europe they play a lot more safe. And I think in Europe you just lane a bit, and then you mostly play around mid support and jungle, which was the case at Worlds last year as well. It was mostly about that, and he thinks it's going to be pretty similar this time around. So even though LPL lanes are aggressive and crazy, he thinks Europe plays safe enough. He thinks G2 plays smart enough, and they play fundamentally sound enough that they can prevent Chinese teams from getting these leads. And again, G2 has obviously had a ton of success internationally, winning MSI, going to finals, going to semifinals. It's not like they've never figured out how to beat top teams before, aggressive teams before, good teams before. They absolutely have. So I love the confidence from Mikyx there, and that's just G2 doing what they've done in the past. I did want to scroll down a little bit to this one. He wants their perspective on this, since he's someone with a lot of experience against Korean bot lanes. Before MSI, most people had LPL overall boasting the most top level bot lanes, but the very elite like Ghost and Barrel were the real best. Post MSI, and just from your observations of the LCK, do you think that Korean bot lanes are any better than the LEC? This guy's asking the good questions. This is where we get the spicy quotes. This is where we get the trash talk. And he said, yes, I feel like LCK bot lanes are worse than the LEC and LPL ones. He was not very impressed with anyone there. He thinks some of the LPL bot lanes are pretty good, but he thinks in Europe you have some really good bot lanes too. And I think that was really, really interesting. The guy also asked him, does he think bot lane is a more stacked position than mid in Europe? And Mikyx actually says yes, that he does think bot lane is better. And I actually think that's kind of interesting, because history has told us that mid lane has always been the best position in Europe. But now that more and more mid laners have left Europe, Perch isn't there, Abadage isn't there, Jensen isn't there, Bjergsen has gone. So many of their top mid laners have left. Febiven's gone and retired. These kind of new age mid laners in Europe, there are some really good ones, Larson, Humanoid, Caps, but there are some not so good ones that are coming up recently as well. Jekyllad hasn't really worked out, Blue hasn't really worked out, Leader hasn't really worked out. All of a sudden mid lane isn't as stacked as it once was in Europe, and all of a sudden bot lane is really good. You have Hans Sama, you have Rekkles, you have guys like, even on bottom tier teams, guys like Patrick. I mean, there's just a ton of really, really good AD carries in the LEC. Like Mikyx says, pretty much every team has a very, very solid combination of bot lane and support. And I really do think that allows Europe and G2 especially with Rekkles and Mikyx to stack up really, really well against teams internationally. Even some of these very, very good bot lanes in the LCK and LPL. And again, at MSI, Damon's bot lane definitely looked like their weak point. Ghost and Barrel, specifically Ghost, was really, really struggling. So I definitely get where this is coming from, but I love that G2 and Mikyx are feeling confident enough in themselves to call out the LCK, to say that Europe can be better than them, because I really do believe that the LEC can be better than the LCK, but I also believe that to be able to do it, they need to think that they can do it. They need to believe in themselves, and they need to be down for a little bit of trash talk. Hopefully this means G2's getting some confidence back, getting some swagger back, and headed into the playoffs, I hope they'll be able to have some good performances, because that'll help with viewership, that'll help with hype, and I really think G2 is one of the West's best shots at doing well at World. So I hope they can get on the right page. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I'd appreciate it so much. Leave a comment down below. What do you think about Mikyx's comments? Do you think the LEC is better than the LPL? You think they're close? Do you think they're similar? The LCK, or do you think the LCK is better than the LEC? I'd love your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. Consider checking out my Patreon, patreon.com/IamGerm. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.